You're an Avenger. Have I killed you before? They all blur together after a while. You're not the one with the hammer.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. This will be my full Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania breakdown Easter eggs for the entire movie. There's so many references, a bunch of teasers for Avengers 5, Kang Dynasty. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. There'll be a bunch of stuff happening in the next couple of weeks. Careful for spoilers for the movie if you haven't seen it yet. We'll start at the beginning, work our way through shot by shot, talking about Easter eggs, WTF moments, and how everything connects. The movie is meant to be the official beginning of Marvel Phase 5. Kevin Feige basically said that it is the beginning of the next Avengers cycle, even though technically that was Marvel Phase 4. Marvel Phase 4 was more about them trying a bunch of different things, introducing some new concepts, some new characters. This movie is when things really get going, and that's why they use Kang the Conqueror as the main villain and the Council of Kangs, because they are called the Dynasty of Kangs, and Avengers 5 is literally called Avengers Kang Dynasty, so it's like the new Avengers versus the Council of Kangs. So Marvel Phase 5, Marvel Phase 6 is when things really get going. They have a brand new Marvel Studios intro logo where they added Shuri in her Black Panther suit right next to Miss Marvel, Falcon in his Captain America suit, also right after Shuri. Werewolf by Night is also in here too. Pretty much everybody who debuts gets added to like the next movie or series title, like they update it after every single series and movie. I also didn't see him before, but He Who Remains Loki is now inside as well. I don't remember seeing He Who Remains in the title before. The actual opening scene tells the story of how Janet Van Dyne met Kang the Conqueror and what happened when he crashed in the quantum realm. She looks like she'd been living there for over 10 to 15 years. Like she's a little bit more gray, but not totally gray. Like she doesn't look quite as old. And she explains that after she destroyed his engine core, she went on the run and lived with the freedom fighters and fought against him for a long time too. When Kang crashes, he crashes in his personal time ship. It's based on the one from the comics that looks kind of like a clamshell. Later we find out that he is Kang the Conqueror. He is the Kang who started the original multiverse war. He was originally on the Council of Kangs, one of the rulers. There are 4 statues in He Who Remains Citadel at the end of time. One of them is broken. The broken statue is meant to represent him when they exiled him. When he says the other members in the council, he's talking about the other variants of himself. There are thousands of different variants on the Council of Kangs, but there are always a couple of the most powerful ones ruling over the council. It's Immortus, Rama Tut, and what looks like the MCU version of Scarlet Centurion, even though he looks like he's purple. He says they're afraid of him, they just didn't like his ideas, so they basically exiled him to the quantum realm because it exists separately from time and space, meaning that it's protected from changes to the timeline and protected from things like Infinity Gauntlet snaps. Later when he says that he knows how everything ends and he wants to prevent this coming calamity and kill the rest of the Council of Kangs, he references the events of the Loki series with He Who Remains in the Sacred Timeline, and then after that, he shows more incursions. Like, he shows what happens after the end of the Loki series. Like, I've seen how everything plays out. There's a version of the multiverse war, then He Who Remains winds up winning using Alioth. He creates the Sacred Timeline, that's what the circle represents that he holds up. Then when he holds that up, that's meant to represent after the events of Loki when they kill He Who Remains. Thank you very much, Sylvian Loki. And he starts talking about the incursions starting to happen. He's basically talking about what's happening during Marvel Phase 4, Marvel Phase 5 right now, and how it leads into Avengers Kang Dynasty again in Avengers Secret Wars. In the comics, Kang the Conqueror is born Nathaniel Richards, that's his real name. He's biologically related to Reed Richards and Doctor Doom. During his time in the 30th century, there's no disease, no hunger, no want for anything. It's like the most boring time to live ever. Nothing interesting ever really happens. He finds a Doctor Doom museum and a Doom bot that somehow reactivates and then unearths his library and finds his plans for his ancient time travel device that Doctor Doom created. He makes it better and then uses that to go back in time and become the Rama Tut version of himself, and then eventually the Fantastic Four find out, they fight him, chase him to the future, he takes the Kang the Conqueror name, then returns, fights the Avengers in present day, and so on and so forth throughout his timeline, just takes different names and keeps coming back to fight the Avengers. The difference in the MCU is that they're saying a lot of these different versions of Kang are different variants of Kang. So like in this Kang's timeline, he only became Kang the Conqueror. They played a little fast and loose with the way that time works in the quantum realm, because in previous movies they made it sound like time moved faster in the quantum realm. So how does everybody remember Janet Van Dyne when they go back down there, like no time has passed, like very little time has passed? I think they're just kind of hand-waving over that, saying, you know what, don't worry about that too much. We go back to present day, post-Avengers Endgame in San Francisco. Everything's going great, also where Shang-Chi lives. He just lives in a different part of the city. The movie is meant to take place around the events of Thor Love and Thunder, so we're into the late year 2025 now. His voiceover while he's having that funny walk just saying hello to people walking down the street is him in the book reading from the book itself. After Avengers Endgame, he leveraged his celebrity saving the world to sell this book, and he's just been doing that ever since. When he starts talking about the Avengers time heist mission, that's actually been public knowledge for a while. Like, the whole world knows most of what the Avengers did in Infinity War and Endgame with the time heist. They even know about Captain America's other time heist at the end to return the Infinity Stones they stole from the past. You notice on the little kid's backpack here, the picture is actually from a real-life poster that Marvel Studios released for the first Ant-Man movie. The shopkeeper makes that funny Spider-Man reference, confusing his animal-themed Avengers, mostly because he's a huge Spider-Man fan, because at the end of the movie, when he learns that it's actually Ant-Man, he makes him pay. Like, no, only Spider-Man drinks here free. That's also a bit of a real-life joke about Spider-Man just being a way more popular character in real life and in the MCU, which is meant to flow with the whole theme of the book, look out for the little guy, like the underappreciated guy. Jimmy Woo gets a cameo scene where they each joke about their close-up magic skills because he's gotten super good at it since WandaVision. They pay off the Baskin-Robbins jokes with them naming him Employee of the Century for saving the universe in Avengers Endgame. Baskin-Robbins definitely found out about that. His former boss has always been played by Greg Turkington here. He's actually a comedian in real life that's done Marvel parodies of the movies with Tim Heidecker in one of their shows, so it's kind of a meta cameo in the MCU for him. Hope Van Dyne has taken control of her father's company, and she's using it to cure a lot of real-world problems like deforestation, world hunger, affordable housing, by using Pym particles to just grow small things really large, like growing food super huge so that it will feed a ton of people. Her newer version of the Wasp suit is a little bit different, and her haircut are meant to make her look more like comic book Wasp. That's what the whole short haircut was about. The suit, along with Cassie Lang's Stinger suit, also have energy-based wings now, whereas before the older suits like Janet Van Dyne's suit had mechanical ones. Also, her taking back Hank Pym's company was meant to be a teaser for Darren Cross returning as MODOK, because in the first movie, he controlled the company. The funny thing about his book here is that Marvel actually is selling this as a real book. You can actually buy this.
Also, a best-selling author. And now you can purchase his very real book. Look out for the little guy. That's right. This once movie prop is now an actual real-life book you can purchase wherever books are sold. How's that for meta? In this new book, I'm almost certain was not written by me.
If anyone's actually purchased it, let me know in the comments. The whole line about missing a bunch of birthdays in the book is meant to set at the end of the movie when he throws her the fake birthday party with the Baskin-Robbins ice cream cake, which tastes terrible because his former boss made it and he's a terrible cook. The line, "There's always room to grow," is also meant to set up the final fight in the movie when he and Cassie Lang grow giant size and attack Kang's Chronopolis City. Hank Pym also says the line too, "There's always room to grow." But it's meant to be kind of ironic, like, I can't believe I read your entire book cover to cover. He picks Cassie Lang up from the local prison and reveals that he's been in there 3 times, she's now been in there twice. This time she was arrested for messing with cops that were going after a bunch of homeless people that were protesting peacefully. They want that to be a big teaser for what's happening with the Resistance versus Kang. It's meant to be a big parallel because they lost their homes to Kang. They also use a lot of her arc and the science that she's been working on in the quantum realm, quantum energy, to tease Young Avengers. They used a lot of Marvel Phase 4 to introduce Young Avengers-based characters. I don't know if they're going to bring the team together before Kang Dynasty or it's going to be after Secret Wars or something like that, but eventually we will see the team form. When she's explaining why she got thrown in prison, she also makes another Avengers Endgame reference, claiming that the homeless people are only homeless because they lost their homes in the blip. And that's actually a direct reference to Spider-Man Far From Home, because that's what happened to Aunt May and Spider-Man. They came back after the blip, but somebody had moved into their former home. I believe the jail cell that she was thrown in is also meant to be the same jail cell that Ant-Man was thrown in during the first movie. She's basically meant to be a chip off the old block, so like, expect her to get into as much trouble as Ant-Man has gotten into in all of his movies. They explained that while all of them had been snapped, she started reading from Hank Pym's journals, learning about the quantum realm, quantum energy. Then when they were all blipped back, she started working with Hank Pym. Pym particles also eventually wear off, so eventually the cop car that she shrunk would grow to full size. Hopefully it wasn't sitting inside the station when it grew back. When he plays his book on tape, reading in his voice, he makes the Hulk baby reference to the time they tried to figure out time travel in Avengers Endgame.
And in that moment, all I could think was, how did the Hulk turn me into a baby? Will I be a baby forever? Am I the Hulk's baby?
But since then, we've also met Scar, son of Hulk in the She-Hulk series, who is actually Hulk's baby. He references Rocket Raccoon, which I think is also meant to be a soft reminder that the Guardians of the Galaxy 3 movie is going to be Marvel's next movie that they released this year. Hank Pym explains his advanced ants that he's been experimenting with. He's upgraded them with some tech and helped them get smarter and develop their own advanced society. When they all get sucked into the quantum realm, they pass through a time dilation field, which causes them to age over 1,000 years. So by the time they find Hank later in the movie, their culture has advanced like 1,000 years. That's why they're able to fix the ship. That's why they're so powerful. Cassie Lang activates her quantum beacon that's like a two-way radio for locating things using the quantum realm. It can basically find pretty much anything, so it'll probably come in handy in future movies like Young Avengers movies or series, so remember this device. It was actually Darren Cross MODOK who detected her first signal when she turned it on, who alerted Kang, and Kang used his tech to pull them into the quantum realm so he could force Ant-Man to get his multiverse engine. The reason he couldn't do it before, and this is one of the few things I question in the movie, is that Kang needed them because he didn't have Pym particles, but you'd think that someone so advanced, like with such hypertech from the 30th century, would be able to recreate Pym particles. All the blue energy that you see Kang using and Kang's tech using is his own refinement of quantum energy. Like, it's all based on quantum energy. All of Kang's portals at the end are meant to look exactly like Reed Richards of the 838 universe's portal. They're also similar to the TVA portals that He Who Remains had them using in the new variant of Kang in Loki Season 2. It's all based on quantum energy, just different implementations of quantum energy. When they're actually traveling down into the quantum realm, the sequence is actually meant to be a reference to Alice in Wonderland when she's been taken down into Wonderland, passing by things that used to be small but are now much bigger because she's gotten smaller. The whole vibe of the movie is meant to be Honey, I Shrunk the Kids mixed with Alice in Wonderland, The Wizard of Oz, and a bit of Star Wars. Like, the quantum realm would be like the land of Oz, and Kang would be the wizard. They even use Elton John's Goodbye Yellow Brick Road song on one of the trailers. When he tells Cassie that they always talked about going camping together, that was in the earlier Ant-Man movies when she was still a little kid and they would pretend to have adventures saving the world together. The energy-based creature that tries to consume them is a reference to Fantastic Voyage when they shrink down into the human body and get attacked by the immune system. The beings that they encounter are Marvel's version of the Micronauts. They couldn't call them that because Hasbro owns the copyrights to Micronauts and the Microverse, so that's why they call it the Quantum Realm and Quantum Beings. Janet Van Dyne explains how the quantum realm works is like an entire alternate universe separate from space and time, protected from changes of the timeline. And the Council of Kangs sabotaged Kang's ship and stranded him there as a makeshift prison. But the whole idea is that there's meant to be one quantum realm for the entire multiverse, like it connects to all different universes in the multiverse. When the creature grabs them, the creature is just called Holes. It's actually voiced by David Dastmalchian, who played Kurt in the previous movies. He eventually also gets holes in his body at the end of the movie, being so fascinated with humanoids and all their holes. Quaz is played by William Jackson Harper. He's a totally new character. He's not like a version of Quasar or anything like that. They mostly use him for comedy because he can read minds and just jokes that everybody thinks disgusting thoughts. Janet Van Dyne calls Hank Pym Ant-Man again because they're the original Ant-Man and the Wasp. When they go back to Ant-Man drinking the ooze from Hole's body, the glowing head aliens sitting around him look just like the colors of the Infinity Stones, like they're almost like walking Infinity Stones. The funny thing about that is that the actual Infinity Stones are alive. They do have a consciousness. When they're chanting in their language, they're saying Boonta Eve. That's actually from Star Wars. Boonta Eve was the name of Anakin's pod race in Phantom Menace. It was called the Boonta Eve Classic. It's just like a regular holiday on Tatooine. The goblet that he winds up swilling the ooze from is also something they're selling in real life at Disney at the Avengers campus, like Disneyland and Disney World, so you can drink all the ooze you want from that too. This character is Jentorra. She's meant to be a princess in the quantum realm from before Kang arrived, one of the leaders of the Resistance. She names him Kang the Conqueror, so it sounds like he was just going by the name Kang before he came to the quantum realm and conquered it. We meet Bill Murray, who's playing Krylar from the comics. He was a villain from the Microverse, but he was green-skinned. In the movie, he claims he's only humanoid, but not full human. He and Janet Van Dyne had a relationship, which they play for a joke, Hank Pym also revealing that he had a fling with another woman named Linda. I wonder what happened to Linda. Krylar's death also winds up being ironic because he winds up being eaten by the very type of creature that he himself had just eaten. Because they use this part of the movie for a lot of Star Wars vibes, Krylar's ship also reminds you of the Naboo Star Cruiser in Phantom Menace. You notice that the ship, and probably all of Kang's ships, are powered using engines that look similar to the one he uses to power his multiverse drive, only much more primitive power sources. We see Cassie Lang use the Stinger suit for the first time when Kang's army attacks. Her powers are basically the same as the Wasp's. She can also fly, grow large. Darren Cross MODOK shows up, and he's pretty close to the appearance of comic book MODOK, just like a little bit different. His teeth aren't quite that big in the comics. Obviously, they changed his backstory for this movie. In the comics, MODOK was George Tarleton, whose father ran AIM, who experimented on his son, turning him into MODOK, but it was with a C. The acronym started out being Mental Mobile Mechanized Organism designed only for computing, but then he went mad, took over AIM, and renamed himself MODOK with a K, which stood for killing. Patton Oswalt also played a version of the character on the MODOK TV show that they did a little while ago.
Fire up the machine.
He can't take anymore. It'll kill him.
In the MCU, they explained that Darren Cross, after the first Ant-Man movie accident, caused his body to partially shrink so that his head just wound up being way bigger than the rest of his body, crashed in the quantum realm where Kang found him and upgraded him in exchange for his service. Ever since then, he's just been obsessed with getting revenge on Ant-Man. They mostly use the character for comedy. There were a couple comments on my previous Ant-Man videos where it seemed like people didn't pick up on that. Like, no, they're actually doing this on purpose. It's supposed to be really tongue-in-cheek. When Janet is flashing back to Kang's first escape attempt, he claims he won't destroy her universe in exchange for helping him escape, but that was probably only temporary. Eventually, under him, things would probably resemble a similar situation to the Sacred Timeline in He Who Remains, where they only allowed one version of Kang to exist, himself. When Kang meets Ant-Man for the first time, they make a bunch of Avengers references to Kang's history with the Avengers from different universes.
I don't know who you are, but you've made a big mistake. Okay? I'm an Avenger. I've called the other Avengers.
You're an Avenger. Have I killed you before?
What?
They all blur together after a while. You're not the one with the hammer.
That's Thor. We get confused a lot. Similar body types.
He mentions Thor. He's killed versions of the Avengers in every universe he's been to. That's how he got his scars. When he tells Ant-Man that if he doesn't get out, everyone could die, this is the big teaser for Avengers, Kang Dynasty, and Secret Wars. Because he knows how the multiverse ends, how time ends, it's a reference to the events of Kang Dynasty with the incursions, the Kang Multiverse War, reality slowly destroying itself, and then it turning into Secret Wars with Battleworld, where all of reality collapses into one single world. Also, the events of the Loki series, like I said earlier, where He Who Remains variant rises up and creates the Sacred Timeline again, but then he winds up dying and more incursions start happening, the Council of Kangs rise up again, and you still wind up heading towards Avengers Kang Dynasty. And it seems like his plan, at least at the moment, is to pull a Thanos, but for the entire multiverse. He wants to save the timelines and universes that he considers safe, like prevent reality from being destroyed, but get rid of the ones that are threats. It's also a reference to destroying the Council of Kangs entirely, which he calls the Dynasty of Kangs. That's like the first thing on his list, like I'm going to destroy those that exiled me. I will erase them from time. But that's basically them telling you that Avengers 5 Kang Dynasty is the new Avengers versus the Council of Kangs, or the most powerful ones at least, like Immortus, Rama-Tut, Scarlet Centurion. There'll be a bunch others during Loki Season 2. When he tells Cassie Lang he doesn't live in a straight line, that's a reference to his backstory in the comics, he also knows Cassie Lang from earlier in his life. He jumps all over the timeline as he ages, so you'll have the very young version of him pretending to be Iron Lad fighting with Cassie and the other young Avengers in present day. That's how he knows Cassie Lang. Then the slightly older 20-something version of him goes back to ancient Egypt, becoming Rama-Tut, fighting the Fantastic Four. Then a slightly older version of him comes back to present day as Kang the Conqueror, fighting the Avengers. Then again, he turns into the Scarlet Centurion, so on and so forth, until he ages up into the Immortus version of himself. One of the differences in the MCU, though, from the comic book version is that because we're talking about multiverse here with a bunch of different variants, is that usually the different Kangs start out being called Nathaniel Richards, like they're born Nathaniel Richards, and then they take a name when they come to power. And instead of taking a bunch of different names, they just take one different name, and this particular one took the name Kang. The other thing about Kang is that he also interacts with himself at different points in his own timeline, and all the different variants do this, so you'll have like the older version of himself trying to help the younger version of himself, give him advice or technology or weapons. And a lot of times, the different versions of him from different parts of his own timeline will disagree with each other, so like the young version of Kang won't want to listen to the older version of himself. And when he says there's a lot of me that are coming, that's him saying that the future events of Avengers Kang Dynasty are going to be the Council of Kangs coming to kill all of them. When they start talking about the multiverse engine and explaining how it works, he talks about the probability storm. When they go down there, a bunch of variants of Ant-Man and the Wasp pop up and then disappear. The whole concept of manipulating probability is how the engine allows Kang to travel across the timeline, across different universes. But part of the idea is that the longer you're down there, the greater the chances that you'll go mad. And at the end of the movie, Kang essentially gets sucked into that probability storm. So it is possible that he will return in Avengers Kang Dynasty or in Secret Wars as a more powerful version of himself who's even crazier. There have been a lot of rumors about what's happening with Secret Wars, like it's going to be different villains between Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars. So if they're going to fight the Council of Kangs in Kang Dynasty, wouldn't this version of Kang, who still wants to kill them, return at the end of that movie, kill them, and then go on to create Battle World for Secret Wars? Because at the very end of the film, it says Kang will return. It doesn't say Kangs multiple will return. It says one Kang will return. But it is kind of meant to be a tongue-in-cheek reference to the Council of Kangs because every version of them will return. I just think the way they worded that statement is meant to be ambiguous. So you're like, wait a minute, maybe he didn't die. When they're down inside the core, there's a whole bunch of Easter eggs. The core itself looks similar to Shang-Chi's 10 Rings of Power. The writing on the rings also looks like celestial symbols, which we also saw in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness in the Darkhold Temple. I think the whole idea here is that Kang in the 30th century started using celestial technology to enhance his designs because celestials are the most advanced beings in the universe. Of course, you try to use celestial tech if you could. In fact, the Rama Tut version of Kang, when he escaped the Fantastic Four and left the past, he actually designated Apocalypse as his successor. Apocalypse formed a new bargain with the Celestials to get their technology, which is how he got his advanced ship and his armor. When all the Ant-Man variants start popping up, most of them are the same, with the exception of the version of Scott Lang, who never became Ant-Man and still just kept working at Baskin-Robbins. His name is Jack, which is a reference to Jack Kirby, who co-created the character with Stan Lee and Larry Lieber. When they all start working together, that's a reference to ant colonies working together to form bridges or ladders, like it's an army of ant-men. After MODOK attacks Hank Pym, he's rescued by his advanced ants who are now 1,000 years more developed and hyper-advanced with more technology. Then Kang explains his grand plan for the multiverse, how time is broken, but he and his variants broke it, so he's going to try and fix it. That's basically by killing the Council of Kangs because he thinks that they're the ones that are actually in the process of breaking it even worse. Then go Thanos on the entire multiverse and just kill a portion of the timelines that he thinks are dangerous that give rise to dangerous Kang variants, kind of like what He Who Remains did. When he talks about burning the broken world and making a new one, I also think that's another Battle World reference to Secret Wars, which is another clue that he might return as the villain for Secret Wars. And when he says he's lost more than Janet can imagine, he's probably talking about Ravonna Renslayer, his love interest from the comics. Because Kang's whole thing is helping younger versions of himself earlier in his own timeline, he explains that an even older version of himself told him once when he was super drunk, taking him to the future, showing him the death of a woman, speaking her name, it was Ravonna Renslayer, she dies in front of them, and then this older version of Kang that was trying to advise the younger version goes off and weeps in a corner, speaks her name once, and then never speaks again. So her death is meant to be this huge tragedy in Kang's backstory. There is a version of Ravonna Renslayer on the Loki series. The version that escaped at the end of Season 2 was given orders by He Who Remains about how to survive the rebooted timeline, so that version will come back in Season 2 and be one of the characters that actually remembers the events of Season 1, like Loki and Sylvie. I'm hoping we actually get to see some scenes with her and Jonathan Majors as a variant of Kang on screen. When Kang tries to escape the quantum realm, he tries to take his entire Chronopolis city because it contains his army, like he's taking his dynasty with him. You notice the rings around the giant city itself are meant to be the same concept as the rings around his smaller ship. Ant-Man goes full Leroy Jenkins on Kang, turning giant size and just making a run at Chronopolis. He makes a big Captain America reference, using one of the circular platforms as a giant shield, like Captain America's shield blocking the weapon's fire. It's also a reference to holding Captain America's shield during Civil War, which he referenced earlier, correcting them that he didn't fight Captain America at the airport, he helped him. Holes winds up getting all of his holes, turns out he can consume things using them. Cassie Lang fights MODOK and convinces him that it's never too late to stop being a dick, and he helps them defeat Kang, dying an Avenger in the process, R.I.P. They play that for a huge gag, with everyone just humoring him like, sure buddy, sure, you're definitely on the Avengers team now. Cassie also winds up going giant size, which is another reference to her time as stature on the Young Avengers. Ant-Man makes a big Godzilla reference when they hug, and when she starts complaining about being hungry, needing citrus all of a sudden, that's a callback to all the times that Ant-Man has gone Giant Man in previous movies. He's said similar things. When Kang joins the fight, you notice one of his abilities is to rewind the energy blast in time so that it destroys the Resistance fighter. That's just showing him how precise his control over time is. When they failed to kill him the first time, he taunts them, saying it's not the first time that he's faced rebellions or Avengers like this. He's killed Avengers in every single universe he's been to. That's why he's still standing here. He almost winds up escaping through Janet's portal, but Hope winds up getting him sucked into the multiverse drive. Like I said, potential that he survived that somehow and will return by Avengers Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars. It's one of those traditional Marvel comic book movie explainers. If you don't see a body, it's no confirmation of death. When things slowly go back to normal, they have the ending joke about him suddenly remembering Kang's warning about the Council of Kangs in Kang Dynasty, Secret Wars, then shrugs it off like it's no big deal. Like, you know what, that's probably not going to be anything, let's not worry about it. The coffee shop owner figures out who he is and starts making him pay for his coffee because he's not Spider-Man. Apparently he's just a really big Spider-Man stan. He throws the fake birthday party for Cassie with the terrible tasting ant-themed ice cream cake from Baskin-Robbins, paying off the line from earlier in the movie in the book. And I've already done a much longer video on both the post-credit scenes, so I'll link it at the end of this. The mid-credit scene, the post-credit scene, teasing the Council of Kangs, deciding to take action against the Avengers and other people from universes that have started to touch the multiverse. They're talking about other people like Clea from the Dark Dimension, the 838 Universe Avengers who survived the Illuminati, the Scarlet Witch killed, like Superior Iron Man. There are a lot of other characters like from the Fox Marvel Universe. There's Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, Andrew Garfield Spider-Man. A lot of those people will come back during Secret Wars. Some of them like Wolverine and Deadpool, we'll see before that though. They're really making it sound like Deadpool 3 is going to be Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe, and it'll be like a big turning point in the lead up to Avengers Kang Dynasty, where a bunch of incursions wind up happening. I'll put a link for that post-credit scene video at the end of this and down in the description below. During that, I explain all of the different Kang variants that appear. There are thousands in the post-credit scene, but only about 10 or 15 major ones. The second post-credit scene is more of a teaser for Loki Season 2 with Loki and Mobius seeing the Victor Timely variant of Kang. I explain a little bit more about what's going on during that and what it means during that video. If you spotted any other Easter eggs or references in the movie that I didn't mention in this video or in my other post-credit scene video, just write them in the comments below. Loki Season 2 will be the next place we see variants of Kang. They'll be doing stuff like this, going on missions trying to stop the Council of Kangs, in addition to going on regular missions stopping other variants and Nexus events. Everyone click here for that post-credit scene video, and click here for my Loki Season 2 trailer video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone stay safe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.